Well, hello and welcome to episode number 291 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and joining me in this wonderful P2K studio on a Friday night is my co-host, Matt Smith.
A very good evening, everyone. We've all survived another week. Didn't we all do well?
Yes. Are you feeling better this week, Matt? Because last week you had the man of flu or something.
Well, it's been one of those that's been rumbling. I don't want to go on about it, obviously.
Blah,
but,
blah, blah,
blah. It's one of those things that's been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and felt like it was never going to come to an end. But finally, I'm pleased to say that we're only mildly coughing and things like that. So yeah, good luck.
He's only covered half the audio desk in sort of stuff.
I'll have you. How very dare you? There's no way in a million years that I would do something like that.
But let's be honest, Matt. You have had yet again this week Matt's treats. We should have the segment on the show called Matt's Treats.
Yeah.
So what was this week's treat from Uncle Carlos?
Oh, I don't know, some cake.
Mocktail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mocktail muffins.
Yeah, there we go. Mocktail. It's all gone all blurry. That's all the excitement.
Look at those. Look. Oh,
yeah, look at that. Yeah, I'm already halfway through. They've only been in the studio for 15
They haven't
minutes.
lasted long.
No, indeed.
And he's just dropped one.
He's just thrown one all over the laptop.
Oh no, the laptop has just taken a turn for the worse.
Oh dear, this is terrible news.
That'll need an update now, Matt.
That will, yeah, absolutely.
And joining us live from from his palatial studio, live in the countryside in Buckinghamshire, it is of course the legend that is Neville Bounds.
Yes, hello.
You all right then?
Sorry to disturb you.
I was just communicating in the chat room, as you do.
Indeed, yes.
Someone's got.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Yes, here we are. And a very hectic week at work. I was in Brussels on Tuesday, just sorting out Brexit for everybody.
Oh, well done.
So I've teed it all up for Boris just to sign the bit of papers. That was great. And then next week, off to Dublin and Belfast. So
as you do.
Lots of flying at the moment.
Very cool. And what are your chosen chariots? Do you know what they are yet?
Oh, well, I would imagine it'll be an A319 or A320 of the BA fleet for both flights next week.
Very nice.
Very nice.
So hopefully, joining us, fingers crossed, this week.
Fingers crossed, everyone. Here we go.
from across the pond is, of course, the absolute awesome chap that is Armando.
Hey everybody, hopefully everything's working swimmingly as it was surely 5 minutes before the show started.
Yeah, all right.
That's nice that you've dressed appropriately this week, Armando, I will say. Yeah,
I'll tell you what, I had the shirt handy. Why not wear it every once in a while?
So how's things with you, Armando? I take it you've had your usual busy week in the skies above North Carolina?
Yeah, I tell you what, it's as you guys say, it's been a funny old week. We, on the bad side of things, we lost our puppy Moxie, who was getting up there in age, and she was already sick. But this is a crazy story, kind of a heartwarming story. But we had made an appointment to take her to the vet and to get her put down at the vet's advice. And we took her for an extra long car ride, and she passed at the doorstep to the veterinarian.
No.
It was the craziest thing. Yeah.
Wow.
She never made it in.
She knew it was time.
Oh.
Yeah. It was, it's obviously we're sad, but at the same time, we're relieved that she went peacefully and, we didn't have to put her on a cold table or something like that. So, that was tough for the family, but other than that, I think you guys saw the video. Probably the coolest thing I did this week was I got a chance to fly a Cicada TB30, which is basically a French Air Force primary trainer. There's not that many of them here in the U.S., and one of my friends and connections through Reno was just stopping in through North Carolina. So he said, hey, I'll swing by if you want to go for a ride. And I said, yeah, of course. So we got up there and did some basic aerobatics in this wonderful airplane. It's basically a French T-34 if anybody's wondering what a Cicada TB30 is. And by all accounts, it does everything better than a T-34. So what a great flight. Took a little bit of video. And Olivier is going to be one of our interviews that we do a little bit later, kind of the last one actually from Reno, at least for this year. And really good guy, and I appreciate him stopping by and letting me take the controls to tumble us out of the sky.
Is that kind of a light sports aircraft, Armando? I'm guessing it's fairly swift in the air.
Yeah, so it is a military trainer, so it is fully approved for aerobatics. I think it's plus 6 Gs, maybe it's even 9 Gs, and then minus 3 or 4 Gs. So it is a very capable airplane. What's interesting is it's certified everywhere else in the world, but somehow in the process of bringing it to the United States, nobody ever applied for reciprocal certification from the FAA. So here in the U.S., it's considered experimental. So it's really? An experimental exhibition airplane. Yeah, very, very capable. I mean, but it's if you manage to land one, it's the ownership cost of an experimental, which is generally about a third of a certified airplane, but you have all the safety and engineering of a certified airplane, and in fact an over engineered airplane, since it is a former military trainer. So there's not that many of them in the U.S. If you want one, you got to get your hands on one of the 10, but there's probably a better chance of getting one over there in Europe.
So of all the aircraft you've flown, Armando, of that kind of size, where does this kind of rank in the the cool spectrum?
Oh boy, I would put it right under a T6, the new T6 Texan. Yeah, it was an RV8 is probably the closest thing that we have here in the U.S. Maybe a Marchetti, but Marchettis are side by side seating. So as far as tandem seats, sporty aerobatic, and an RV8 isn't really aerobatic. The only thing in its class here in the U.S. is a T-34, and I would put it up there as far as maneuverable airplanes. Not as much as an Extra or a Game Bird or something like that, but very, very cool. You definitely feel like a military pilot.
Well, we'll put that on the list for Christmas for this year for you, Armando, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
So,
Nev, I just realised actually while I was looking through the WhatsApp messages that they were just received. You've got a very interesting picture that you'd sent in from us. I see. Trying to. There's nothing sensitive on there, is there? Before I flash it up on the screen.
No.
Okay. Yeah. It's. I think the exact words were trying to maintain one's status, wasn't it? There we go. Look. He's making sure he's in seat 1A.
Well, obviously that's where we need to be, isn't it?
Yeah, quite right. Yeah,
at least I could get there this time.
Seat 1A.
Well, that's put up with 2A last week.
Did you? Oh dear. Were you slumming it a tad? Yeah.
Oh.
Well, there was also some gold card holder that was in front of me. So,
right. Yeah. You got to watch them. They're nothing but trouble.
It didn't look like a gold card holder when I was looking at it. I thought, no, how can this person possibly have higher status?
I suppose anyway, one could argue, but what does a gold card member actually look like? I mean, that is the thing. You could look like
well, I was very surprised when I saw it last week. That's for sure.
Oh dear.
Well, there we are.
So welcome,
worms everywhere.
Welcome everyone who has joined us on this Friday night, the 18th of October. Time just coming up to 7:10 in the evening here in the UK. Big welcome to everyone in the YouTube chat room this evening. Lane Street, Chris Griggs, Auntie Liz is in there as well. Tanya W. We've got Tony S. Mash is in the chat room. Hello to you as well. We have gone scrolling down. Graham Haley. Hello to you, Graham. Hope you're well. We've got Neil Lambourne. Hello to you, Neil. Andy Williamson, who is in Dubai watching the show.
As you do.
So he says, one of his messages, he says, at last, caught the programme live.
Ooh,
good on you,
well
Andy.
Done you,
well
absolutely.
done. Well done, Andy. Jonathan Warner's in there as well. He's probably going through the 10.5 million photos he's took over the last 24 hours of aircraft.
And before he starts, it's already muted, so there's no point trying to ping me.
Yes.
You're out of luck.
Philip Davis as well. Yeah. Jan Hubner as well. Hello to you, Jan. Hope you are well. So thanks for everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening. So tonight's show, we've got all the usual news coming up. We've also got a little segment as well to play out that's been sent to us by Chris Griggs.
Yes, so we have a Nev's passenger experience.
Yeah, so we've got that to play out midway through the show. We've also got the usual awesome stories from Armando for this week's military segment. Well, if everyone's ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
We are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Nev.
Yes, I am.
Slight delay there.
Satellite delay between here and Buckinghamshire.
Yes. And if you're ready, Armando.
Let's go.
Right. I don't know what's
Matt,
going on.
press the button.
It's all
quick.
gone horribly wrong.
So, kicking off this week's first news story on the bbc.co.uk website. And for those of you in the UK who may be used to seeing the Dash 8 Q400s of Flybe flying around the sky with that lovely, gorgeous purple livery, we'll be seeing a change soon, because the headline Flybe airline announces name change to Virgin Connect. The airline Flybe is changing its name to Virgin Connect following its £2.8 million sale. The name change will be accompanied by a new livery, and the purple aircraft will be repainted in red. The Exeter-based regional airline was sold in February to a consortium of operators called Connect Airways, which was led by Richard Branson's Virgin Atlantic. The company said flights would continue to operate as normal. Passengers are advised to continue to book flights, check in and manage bookings via Flybe. Connect Airways Chief Executive Mark Anderson said the company would be focused on becoming Europe's most loved and successful regional airline. That's a bold statement.
It is, yeah.
So Flybe started in 1979 and operates 9 out of 10 flights from Southampton Airport. It has 76 aircraft operating from smaller airports such as London City, Southampton, Aberdeen and Newquay. It flies about 8 million passengers a year between 71 airports across the UK and Europe. So we've seen this coming. This has been on the cards for a little while now. But I must admit it will be weird not to see that purple, because it does stand out rather well when you see these in the sky.
Absolutely. But then if that's what it takes to save jobs and not have another airline go bust, essentially, then surely that's got to be good news, isn't it?
Yeah. So 1979 this Flybe started. So it'd be a shame to see the name go, but obviously, like we said, the people keeping their jobs.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's strange to think of Virgin having a kind of regional arm now, isn't it? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Nev?
I mean, I part of me isn't surprised, really. I mean, it's
don't forget they've got some slots at Heathrow as well, so they operate, I think, an Edinburgh and Aberdeen or Inverness service out of Heathrow as well. My only question is, of course, most of my travelling chums, because of Flybe's rather unpredictable timetable. They used to call it Fly Maybe, which
Fly
was
Maybe,
a bit
right?
harsh.
Yes.
I wonder what they're going to call it now.
Right.
So
yes.
we'll have to see, won't we?
But then, where I was going with my earlier comment is in the States, and I'm sure Armando will back me up with this. Tony S is saying apparently Virgin's regional past experiences didn't end well. No, but it's not uncommon for in the States, is it, Armando, for most of our the big carriers like American Airlines, Delta, and all that kind of thing. I mean, most of them have their foot in the regional door as well, don't they?
Yeah, very much so. I think most, without putting a number, I'd say, 3/4 of regional airlines here in the U.S. are branded as a code share or a regional feeder to a larger airline such as American, Delta, United. I think most of the time, if you're not on some kind of Airbus product, I guess the A220 aside, or Boeing product, you're most likely flying a regional airline and you don't know it. except for American Airlines, which actually owns AMR, or AMR owns American Eagle, which is part of American Airlines. And there's probably other ones too, but yeah, that's very much a thing here in the U.S. to have a regional airline branded as something else that feeds.
So now, Nev, going back to you saying, have you had many Flybe experiences?
Do you know, I don't think I've ever been on a Flybe aircraft. I've been on plenty of Q400s of other
carriers,
airlines, but no, I've never actually been on a Flybe at all. Lots of my work colleagues have, and they're not usually that complimentary. So let's see how things pan out now that they are
perhaps things will be
running
different
under the Virgin brand.
Yeah. Okay. I mean that is the one thing, of course, perhaps with Virgin that might help is the fact that they will bring a bit of quality, perhaps to the brand and maybe sharpen things up a bit, as you say.
Yeah, might well happen, but I hope so, because I didn't realise that they had so many aircraft actually either. It was, they've got 76 aircraft, which is a lot.
That is more than a handful, certainly.
So the next story then, Matt, for you is on one of the best tabloid papers in the UK.
Yes. Which is where everybody goes, obviously, for their aviation-related content. Of course, this is on thesun.co.uk, and the headline is "Rye Unfair." Ryanair slammed for letting passengers board flight without their passports checked, while others were left behind. So Ryanair passengers were forced to miss their flight after the airline announced the gate number was the gate number just 25 minutes before departure, despite an hour-long wait at border control. Many passengers were unable to make it to the flight on time, while others went through without having their passport checked, again at the gate. Ryanair passenger Hunter DeBose, who was on flight FR1883 from Lisbon to London Stansted, explained the late announcement caused chaos at the airport as travellers rushed to get through the additional checkpoint. However, many were not made aware of the additional passport security checks. He wrote, "Passenger safety and aircraft security compromised due to Ryanair incompetence." A departure gate announced only 25 minutes before the gate closed, and on the other side of a passport checkpoint that was easily an hour long. There was no warning before the gate was announced that they would have to pass through that particular passport checkpoint. He continued, "I had to band together with 20 other passengers from the same flight to skip to the front of the queue. Upon arrival at the departure gate, there was a stampede of passengers all panicking about potentially missing the flight. Your gate agents lost control of the situation and were also panicking." He also noticed a passenger get past the gate without being checked by Ryanair staff at all. Hunter said, "I witnessed at least one individual slip past the gate without showing a passport or boarding pass. A gate agent noticed this and briefly attempted to stop the individual, but then turned their attention back to the gate without the individual producing a passport or boarding pass, because other passengers were surging forward without showing their passports or boarding passes." He added to Sun Online Travel that passengers were in a state of panic, as well as the Ryanair gate agents. Hunter said they certainly couldn't be bothered to explain why they'd announced the gate so late, that there wasn't enough time to get there before it closed without taking extraordinary measures like skipping to the front of the passport control queue. "I assume that they announced it so late because our plane was late arriving in Lisbon, but this is really something that Ryanair should answer." Whilst Hunter was one of the passengers to make his flight, others weren't so lucky. A passenger who wished to remain anonymous told Sun Online Travel that he missed his flight only to be forced to pay for a new flight and overnight accommodation. He explained airport immigration was understaffed with only 2 people working, and Ryanair announced the flight gate 25 minutes before. Anyway, we're going over the same ground here, but you get the point. Now, I know this is a bit of a bugbear with many people, certainly who fly from the US here into the UK and then obviously fly home. But we do have a bit of a weird thing where we don't announce the gate until like 45. Well, most
but that's
of the
not
time
Ryanair's fault, though.
No, I know, but it's normally like 45 minutes before you're supposed to go. Now, obviously, in the States, actually, you more or less know the gate from the time that you book. Is that correct?
Yeah. I don't know about from the time you book, but you certainly know it way ahead of time.
Check in.
Aside from changes, and I guess I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just that generally the airports are quite bigger here. Even a regional airport is bigger here. That did take some getting used to as an American living over there in Europe, where everybody just waits in a lounge, and then it's just a mad rush. Everybody. It's when it says gate will be announced at 2:21 p.m. And everybody crowds around the monitor, and then there's just this mad rush to get there, and it's first come first serve. That's not generally a thing here.
Now, I mean, obviously,
it does take some getting used to.
Nev, you do a lot of flying, obviously, around the world. I mean, is it only a British thing, or have you sort of stumbled across this sort of issue with other European airports?
Bit of a European thing, I would say.
Yeah.
We have to be first to the gate for some reason, even though the flight's not boarding for 35 minutes or something like that.
Or you've already been assigned a seat.
Yeah.
Yes. So, let's be honest, the aircraft is not going to go without you, especially if you've got bags checked in. So, just relax. I mean, I have to say, I'm not one of those people. I do like to get to the gate
as soon as
just
possible.
before they start boarding. But but there's always delays and this kind of thing as well. So you end up clogging up the thoroughfare, as we all did in Brussels on Tuesday coming back. So 140 odd people are trying to get on the plane, but of course there's a bit of a hold up, and it's just clogged up the whole of the gate area, so people can't get past.
I mean, do you? This is me being a bit cynical here. Do you think one of the reasons why they try and hold you in, say, the departure area, the seating area, is because basically that's where all the duty free is and all the shops are and all that kind of thing? Do you think there's a small part of that? So 45 minutes is probably the right amount of time for anybody to get to a gate. And I mean, and it's just sort of trying to keep you near the shops essentially for as long as possible so that people can make more money.
There might be a bit of that, but actually, to be honest with you, obviously on inter-European flights, all the duty-free thing doesn't exist anymore. But also, I don't know if you've noticed that there's a lot more, and Brussels Airport was a good example of this on Tuesday, as you come through security. And actually, thinking about it, Heathrow is like this as well. You go straight through all of the shopping areas, and you wind your way left and right through the duty-free areas as well. So you are forced to go through those parts of it, and there's very few people that just go straight through it. There's always people that are stopping, so there's plenty of opportunity to buy things there. But although I would question, unless you're going intercontinental, as it were, the prices aren't fantastically good value, really. They're a little bit cheaper than you might get in your local high street, but
not like they used to be. I mean,
the days of the package holiday duty free thing are long gone, aren't they?
They are, absolutely. Do feel free, by the way, sorry I haven't mentioned this already at the top of the show, don't forget, if you want to get in touch with the show via WhatsApp while we're live, it is +44 757 2249 166. That's +44 757 2249 166. We've got a couple of messages coming in, I just noticed, so we need to just publicise that a bit.
Just quickly, hello to Mila, who's joined us in the chat room. She just said today a lady cut the queue and nearly threw a tantrum because she wanted to get there first.
Oh,
it was embarrassing.
Right, okay.
There's always one like
Was she
that.
British by any chance? Because it's usually our fault.
Anyway, so next story is carry on.
Sorry,
Armando.
Sorry, real quick. Another point for comparison is the apps. Here in the U.S., most of the airlines have an app that stays pretty updated, and the whole idea of crowding around the monitor is slowly going away, in that by the time I land in Dallas for my connection, as soon as my cell phone gets service again, I get a notification from Airline X, and it says, your gate has changed to H13 or whatever, and I can almost immediately just go right to my gate without having to worry about anything, even on my drive in. So I have about a 30-minute drive into Charlotte in Douglas International Airport, and sometimes on the drive I'll get a notification on my phone saying, hey, your gate has changed to B12, and now I already know, well, the closest security checkpoint, the closest place that I can park and get in there, not make any eye contact with anyone except for the sole security agent looking at my ID, and then go straight to my gate with no issues whatsoever. and somebody mentioned, Jan Hubner in the chat room mentioned that Germany, they announced it 2 hours ahead of time. I think it depends on the airport, depends on the carriers. Yeah. I know, like here in Southwest Airlines, you got to get in your, little airspace there in the queue so you can get some overhead bin space. But I got to admit, I'm going to give this one to the U.S. I prefer the U.S. way of doing this.
Yeah, no, that's all right. That's fair enough. I get that. While we were just mentioning the old WhatsApp there, actually, a message from Andy Williamson, and what I can only describe as probably, you'll appreciate this, Armando. This is a very, very cool picture. And this was a few years ago, apparently, Red Bull at Abu Dhabi just slicing the inflatable, as you do. Now, what sort of craft is this? Is anybody able to identify it?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not an extra. I think the Red Bull air races had some really unique airplanes. They were called it's like an Edge or something like that. Okay. There's 2 or 3 airframes that they use. If you give me about 5 minutes, I'll find it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think Andy Winston's actually watching, so with a bit of luck, perhaps he'll see this and then he'll let us know. But that's that looks expensive as it slices through the inflatable. But anyway.
Oh yeah, they're $250,000 airplanes at least.
Gosh, yeah, there's a lot of room for things to go wrong there. So we'll move on to the next story, if we may. And Nev, I believe this is with you.
It is, yes. It's on the time.com website, and it's the headline says, human guinea pigs prepare for world's first 20-hour commercial flight.
Oh, no.
For decades, travellers have stoically endured jet lag as an unavoidable menace on long journeys. Now, as airlines push for record-breaking non-stop flights halfway around the planet, efforts to counter the debilitating symptoms are turning into a billion-dollar industry. Fresh insight into the physical and emotional toll of ultra-long-haul travel should emerge this coming weekend when Qantas flies directly from New York to Sydney. No airline has ever completed that route without stopping. At nearly 20 hours, it's set to be the world's longest flight, leaving the US on Friday and landing in Australia during its Sunday morning. This will be more than an endurance exercise, as scientists and medical researchers in the cabin will turn Qantas's brand new Boeing Dreamliner into a high-altitude laboratory. Why they have shown a picture of a 747 and an A380 as part of the headline, we'll never know. But it says that they'll screens of the pilots for alertness whilst monitoring the food, sleep and activity of the few dozen passengers. The aim is to see how humans hold up to the ordeal. The proliferation of super long flights. Singapore Airlines resumed non-stop services to New York last year. It's partly driven by the development of lighter, more aerodynamic aircraft that can fly further. The physical burden on customers is putting a renewed focus on jet lag and creating a supermarket of products and homemade creations to ease the suffering. In the shopping basket are melatonin tablets, Pfizer's anti-anxiety medication Xanax, and Propeak, light-emitting glasses that claim to get the body back on track. And there's an app for that and many other potential remedies. The potential customer base, though, is staggering. IATA expects some 4.6 billion people to take a flight in 2019, a total that will jump to 8.2 billion in 2037. Demand for jet lag therapies is growing at about 6% per year, and the industry will be worth $732 million in 2023, according to BIS Healthcare. The broader sleeping disorder market, which is dominated by pills, is worth $1.5 billion and will swell to 1.7 by 2023, global data says, adding that more than 80 drugs targeting disturbed sleep are in clinical development. So just a few facts and figures. The New York to Sydney route is 16,200 kilometers, which is just over 10,000 miles in 19 and a half hours. There's going to be 50 people on that flight, including the crew. No cargo, but just limited catering. It's a private flight, which is classed as, and it's on the flight number is QF7879, And actually, Qantas has been this hypothetical flight plan for weeks now, just to see how it's going to work out. So there's that flight coming up. And then, of course, Alan Joyce of Qantas has challenged both Airbus and Boeing to come up with a non-stop Melbourne or Sydney to London service as well. And that's going to be, was it 22 or 23 hours? So that'll be worth looking out for as well. But what do you, I mean, I know Carlos is, can't wait for this sort of thing. The longer the better as far as the flight time is concerned. But
you know me too
to be
well,
honest
mate.
with you, even the 13.5 hours to Singapore for me was enough. I wouldn't want to go on any more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose...
Matt, total nightmare for you. Armando?
Well, no. In my defence, all I was going to say was I can see how this would appear. So if you're in business and you need to get from one part to another, the very fact that you haven't got to have, say, even 3 hours in a layover, say, but say, say if you were trying to get to New Zealand, for example, and you might end up with having to have a stop in Hong Kong or Kuala Lumpur or wherever it is, and then onwards. The ability to be able to do it in one hit, I guess, as a businessman, whilst still being, I mean, you will be knackered. There's no two ways.
Yeah,
about
but let's
it.
be fair. If you're a businessman, you probably won't be sitting in the economy section of the aircraft. You'll be in.
Well, I guess. I mean,
business
I guess
class.
there is that. I mean, Armando, what are your feelings on this?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it makes a huge difference if you're in business or in economy.
Yeah.
Business, sure. 20 hours, bring it.
Yeah.
Economy, 10 is good for me.
10 is enough. Yeah, absolutely.
Minutes, yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So before we move on
we have a bit
to
of
Armando's
breaking
next
news,
story, this story actually happened actually very, very recently today. This one's on simple flying. I'll just quickly cover this before we move on. This is actually an Asiana Airbus A380, which has had quite a serious engine fire in Seoul Incheon Airport worryingly, whilst refueling. Those of you watching on YouTube will be able to see the video that Matt's playing on there at the moment, which shows, well, you can probably see the engine itself, number one engine.
It's spitting bits out.
Slight issues there, and also some bit. I think it's spewing bits out on fire on the floor.
I'll tell you what, because it's looping here. This video. The gentleman in the back here. What is that? Is it like a flamethrower or something? What's? Well, it looks like he's got. Are we sure it's not a flamethrower or something, or is he just trying to put the fire out?
I think he's trying to put it out.
I think.
Yeah. But the guy,
that little hose isn't going to do very much.
No, I was going to say you've got the guy who runs in the back. You're bearing in mind it's spitting bits of debris out. I mean, that's one very either brave or stupid man, isn't it? Getting so close to the back of that engine there. I mean, difficult to guess. I mean, any clue as to what might be occurring here?
A slight engine fire.
No, obviously.
Yeah, this engine's certainly having an issue.
Yeah. Oh well. Anyway,
this is isn't even made it to the Aviation Herald yet. So this is a fairly fresh story.
Hot off the
this
presses,
one,
as it were. Yeah.
but this one it's actually got the Rolls-Royce Trent 970 engines on this one.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, perhaps we'll find out more about that next week. But moving on to
there's a bit more just before we do that. There's a little bit more breaking news, which obviously sorry to cut across everybody.
Yes,
I've just sent this to the WhatsApp.
No,
thing.
I'm on it. I'm on it. Here we go. Yes, ready to show when you are, sir.
Some news to report.
There we go. Good news, everyone.
Yay!
For those listening online, you should just explain. So it says Dubai Air Show media registration confirmation. Dear Neville Bounds, you have successfully been registered for a media pass for the Dubai Air Show 2019. This is great news.
It's the correct answer. Otherwise, I'd have just been going for a short holiday and watching Carlos with his camera.
Yes, absolutely. Never mind. He'll show you on the viewfinder afterwards when he gets back to the hotel room. Yeah,
well done, Nev.
Yeah.
Good news.
Well, that's good news. That is. Yeah, absolutely.
We are ready. I'm excited now. Right, Armando. Moving on to the next story, and this one.
Armando's nodded off. He's
he's
lost the will to live.
This is quite moving from an engine fire to something else.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I haven't nodded off. I'm just jealous that you guys are going to Dubai.
Yeah.
So the story is from the USA Today, and I do like the title is "It Startled Me Awake." Southwest Airlines evacuates flight after tires blow out, reports say. Southwest Airlines flight evacuated, arriving at Chicago's Midway International Airport after a hydraulic issue materialized upon landing, resulting in blown tires. There were no injuries. Online flight records from FlightAware show flight number 4448, departing from Austin, arrived about 35 minutes late, landing about 9 a.m., spending 45 minutes on the runway before arriving at the gate. Following a safe landing, the 137 customers and crew of 5 used air stairs to deplane the aircraft and board buses for the main terminal. Let's see, the problem had to do with a system that powers the landing gear. Debatable. I don't know that anything powers the landing gear other than movement. Let's see. We apologize to all customers on board for the inconvenience and are working with any connecting customers whose onward travel plans changed as a result of this event. Passengers compared the sound and feeling of the landing to what one might experience when a tire blows on a car. Go figure. We landed kind of hard. I was actually dozing off and it startled me awake, said Sam German, a passenger. We just heard something go pop and then a rattle. And then it sounded like a flat tire, basically. It's probably because it was.
Funnily enough.
Another passenger told the outlet, if you ever had a flat tire, it was the same type of deal. You kind of hear it flap, flap, flap. Then we just listened a little bit. Pilot did a great job. No swerving, no drama.
Didn't we cover a story last week about dodgy tires? Was it last week we had dodgy tires?
Not a good year was the show title, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
What was going on here, Armando, honestly?
I think flat tires are actually relatively common, whether you're in general aviation or in a commercial airliner. It could be anything from the anti-skid system, and the tires, are just kind of skidding down the runway and overheat. You could have a brake failure. You could have a hydraulic hose. But if you ever look at the undercarriage of any of the big airliners, that's why there's at least 2 tires and sometimes 4, sometimes more. So it's I'm going to go nothing story on this one. And they didn't even deploy the chutes. They just kind of pulled up stairs to the airplane and deplaned the passengers. I'm not sure that even counts as an emergency evacuation. So,
yes. So
it's just a deplaning.
Yeah, they just called the AA out and...
change the tyre.
Absolutely,
yeah. Right, before we move on, we have a WhatsApp video that's just come in from Mr. Jonathan Warner.
Oh, this is scary.
Yeah, so he's been... It's all right, it's all family friendly.
Okay.
So it says, today's fully kitted out U2 departing Fairford. Could you imagine anything else getting off the deck that quick? So let's have a little look and see what he's on about here. I'm not getting any sound, unfortunately, but that seems to be part of the course. Hang on. Oh, there is no sound. That's probably why.
Perhaps he had his hand up when he was recording.
Yeah, I don't know. Why have I not got any sound? Anyway, it's not doing.
It's not moving.
What is that? Some kind of glider or something?
I don't know. I can't quite see.
Here we go. The car's going to drive into it.
There we go.
The car's going to have a head on. No?
No. It's all right. It's all good. Nobody panic.
It does get airborne rather quick, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, there we go.
It's got the wingspan of a football pitch. Like,
I mean, that is a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Stealth's not its middle name.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this next story on the avweb.com and worrying news,
the audio-visual news.
Yeah, very good. avweb.com. So Swiss Airlines, this is an aircraft we all know and love, actually. Swiss Airlines grounds their A220 fleet. So Swiss International Airlines temporarily grounded its fleet of Airbus A220 aircraft following an in-flight engine failure on Tuesday that caused a Geneva-bound Swiss Air flight to divert to Paris. According to France's Bureau d'Antiquités, something or other, lots of French words. Bonjour.
Multilingual.
I know. I done well in French at school. I'll have you know. Yes, I got a G. Anyway, this is the third such engine failure on a Swiss Airlines Pratt & Whitney PW1524G-3 powered A220 since July. Following Tuesday's grounding, the airline began engine inspections and has started returning the aircraft to service. After a comprehensive engine inspection, the first C-Series returned into service in perfect condition, said Swiss Airlines in a statement. Based on the current planning, the flight operations can be resumed by Thursday, which was yesterday, in a largely regular manner. So Swiss takes the incidents very seriously and continues to maintain close contact with the responsible authorities, Airbus, Canada and Pratt & Whitney. The FAA issued an airworthiness directive requiring initial and repetitive inspections of the low-pressure compressor, the LPC, inlet guide vane and the LPC rotor 1 on the series of Pratt & Whitney turbofans following the Swiss Airlines second in-flight engine shutdown in September. As per international agreement, the BEA has delegated investigation to the incidents to the NTSB as the authority in the country of design for the engine. As part of that investigation, the BEA is organising a ground search near Perigny, Sir Armand and Cry for some of the damaged engine parts from the July engine failure. Now, Nave, we were talking about this earlier, and you said it was just Swiss who have had this issue, is it?
Yeah, from what I understand, none of the other A220 operators have grounded their fleet, only Swiss at this stage. So we'll have to see what comes of it. But yeah, well, at least they've taken the right action, haven't they? So let's see how that progresses.
Matt?
Yes, indeed. Yes, on to the next story. This is on simpleflying.com, and the headline is, which airlines would order the Boeing 767X? There have been reports of a new Boeing project titled the 767X. The aircraft will draw inspiration from the existing 767 models, but with a modern twist. New engine, the aircraft is slated to be introduced by 2025 and will be fitted with General Electric's GE-NX turbofan jet engines. Flight Global reports that there will be two variants of the airliner, one for cargo use and another for passenger services. Some of Boeing's existing popular freighters are the 767-300F and the 757-200F. Both jets are also favourites of US shippers FedEx and UPS. FedEx holds 78 767Fs and 119 757Fs, whilst UPS operates 65 of each aircraft type. With the 757 coming of age, both delivery companies may be looking for the 767XF as the perfect replacement, with little alterations that need to be made from existing 767s. Existing operators won't have problems adapting to the new aircraft. So the passenger edition, there are previous reports of Boeing gearing up for the manufacture of a new mid-size aircraft, NMA. This aircraft was dubbed to be named as the 797, but updates on the project dwindled recently. Delays to the construction of the 777X, along with the 737 MAX grounding issues, may have put this jetliner on hold. However, the NMA, previously billed as an essential replacement to the 757 and 767 fleets, the 767X could be a suitable alternative measure. Delta Airlines hoped to be a priority customer for the 797. According to the Seattle Times, Daniel Peartrack, managing director of fleet transactions at Delta Airlines, expressed his interest. The director said that the airliner could be an ideal plane for transatlantic routes. Fellow US operator United Airlines also made an inquiry with both Airbus and Boeing about replacing its 757s. United's chief financial officer said that his company had been looking for a jet that can fly from its hub to Newark. In Newark, to Europe. Along with this, Alaska Airlines has been keeping an eye on Boeing's progress. The carrier's Vice President of Capacity Planning, John Kirby, expressed his interest in the plane at an ISTAT panel discussion Therefore, with the 797 back on the back burner, the US carriers may be interested in snapping up the 767Xs instead.
Now, I love the 76. I flew back from Las Vegas, actually, with on a 767.
I think 767 is
-400 with Delta. Actually,
767 is what I came back from New York. on. That was out of Newark, actually.
I absolutely loved that. And a lot of the older 767s, of course, had the RB211 engines on, which were very lovely sounding engines indeed. But most of the airlines are starting to phase the older 76s out now. I know
But they
BA
are quite old, aren't they?
yeah, BA used to have quite a few of these, didn't they, Nev?
They did, yeah.
They got rid of theirs, but
Good,
there's still quite a lot of these
innovation.
around. So,
So I could still end up on one for the foreseeable.
there's plenty of room on the 76, Matt. Don't worry, don't you worry. So, moving on to the next story, and Nev, this is a story for Brian Coleman.
Oh.
Yes, it is. It's on the simpleflying.com website, and it says that United Airlines' new California-themed jet takes flight. As part of their national Hair Art Here competition, United Airlines has unveiled its latest one-of-a-kind painted planes. Designed by San Francisco resident Sungwei Mu, the Boeing 757 called California features the Golden Gate Bridge, palm trees, and sunglasses. The eye-catching design pays tribute to what makes the Golden State the place it is, with the Pacific Ocean, endless beaches, and long Southern Californian summers. California is an important place for United Airlines, with the Chicago-based airline having significant hubs in Los Angeles and San Francisco. United Airlines, her Art Here, that's really difficult to say, actually, isn't it?
Not great, is it?
The competition was launched in February to give interested female artists the chance to express their artwork on the body of a passenger plane. Describing her California entry as a work of passion, her design was shaped by her own personal journey after emigrating to the United States of America from Taipei, Taiwan, aboard a United Airlines flight. In United Airlines press release to publicise the aircraft and the Her Art Here contest, Sungwei talks about her design, saying, "It's truly a dream come true. The vibrant colours, sunshine and subject matter make it California. I could never imagine one day my art will be displayed on a United Airlines plane, which brought me to the United States. There are no culture borders in art, and it doesn't matter my status is an emigrant female artist. The plane has its mission now to bring more joy into people's life, connecting people and uniting the world through experience art." Well, before making its first flight, the California-themed aircraft spent 17 days in a hangar in Amarillo, Texas, whilst painters recreated Sungwei's winning design on the United Airlines Boeing 757. United came up with the Her Art Here contest after learning that all of the paintings on display in American museums, only 13% of them were created by women artists. Having their artwork transferred to a United 757 aircraft provides the winning artist with a travelling canvas that flies on average 1.6 million miles in a single year. The contest was open to those who identify as a woman. This included all American residents who consider themselves a woman regardless of what gender they were born. United asked the competitors to come up with a unique design that represented either New York or New Jersey or California, which are two key marketplaces for the airline. Artists were asked to paint in their own unique style while also taking into account United's mission and what the communities they were painting about meant to them. All entries were scrutinised by a panel of judges and marks given for content and criteria, with the final winners determined by a combination of the judges' scores and votes sent in by the public.
I love this. I love the colours. I love the design. I have to say it's probably one of my favourite I've seen for a while of these kind of design kind of paint jobs on aircraft. But I do love that blue. That is pretty nice. And also one of those shots that Matt put up during the your reading actually, Nev, was of the leading edge of the wing, and it's all nice and polished aluminium, which is I do love. Armando, obviously this is your side of the water. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I love it too. We did a couple stories on the ANA turtle paint schemes, the Ford turtle paint schemes last year, and this is kind of reminiscent of that. But I love anything that's unique. Norwegian puts notable figures on their tails. Alaska had different paint schemes. Southwest does some different paint schemes with some of the markets that they service. So, and the retros, we've done stories about the retro liveries for both British Airways and I see the Piedmont 730, or actually it's an Airbus, flying around here in Charlotte every once in a while. I love anything that's unique like this, and well done to this artist.
I wonder how long they'll keep it on the aircraft. So,
not being funny, it's not a cheap thing to do. I don't.
Oh no, not paint aircraft.
Paint aircraft. No. I mean, it's not. You're not sort of changing it every sort of 1,000 miles, are you? I mean,
what they should do really, just get 100 children with a million boxes of crayons and just say go wild. Saves a lot of money. Because kids love drawing on walls and doors.
I mean, there are a couple of issues with that, Carlos. I'll be honest with you.
Oh, the height, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a health and safety nightmare, to be honest with you, mate. I mean, it's just like small children, crayons, and delicate aircraft. No.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sure Armando Jr. would love to have a go.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a thing.
Yeah. Sure.
Why not?
Yeah. When Armando Jr. is not a thing. I do have a funny story about Maddie, though, since we're talking about Armando Jr. She did come out to the airport yesterday, and she just completely surprised me because she says, "I want to drive the tug," and I'm like, "What?" And she was really, really intense. So I said, "Okay, well, let's go drive the tug." And I think I'd mentioned previously that she knows the difference in aircraft, and she knows what corporate aircraft is. She's 5. And
wow, good
and she can hook up a tow bar. Yeah, she can hook up a tow bar to a Bonanza or a Baron, something like that. But yesterday I taught her how to drive an aircraft tug. It was great.
That is so good.
I mean, wow.
That's so good on so many levels.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool.
Any inkling at all, Armando, as to maybe that Maddie might go into a aviation background?
A bit early yet, mate. Come on.
Yeah, it is a little bit early, but part of me wants it, and then part of me doesn't, because it's a lot of money and it's a volatile industry. And I'd love for her to be a doctor.
Yeah, you and Megan will basically be skint for 100 million years while she's.
That question that all parents get at a certain age is, as mum, dad, I want to learn to drive.
Right.
Yeah, that's gonna be bypassed. That'll be mum, dad, I want to learn to fly.
Yeah, actually, while we're talking about people who nearly bankrupt themselves trying to fly, I got a message from one of a friend of mine got back in touch with me who I haven't spoken to for years and years and years, and that's through the show. So if you are listening to this, Philip Nangle, hello. I'm just saying hi. This will be a test because he said he has been listening to the show. So if I don't get a message from him now, I will know that he was lying.
Well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Armando, funnily enough, we're talking about airline careers, and the next story is kind of follows along that kind of path.
Yeah, this is great. Airbus in the UK has opened up its award-winning apprenticeship program to applications for the 2020 intake. Airbus did take on a record number of new apprentices as its Broughton site this year, surpassing even last year's bumper total. 155 craft and undergraduate apprentices joined the aerospace company's site in Flintshire this week, with a further 37 apprentices starting at its Filton base. In addition, Airbus's graduate program welcomed 46 new trainee appointments in Filton and 16 in Broughton. The highly technical nature of the aerospace industry has created a huge demand for skilled and qualified specialists in the UK. Airbus says it has carefully designed graduate programs to give valuable practical training while allowing apprentices to complete college or university studies. Apprentices receive a second-to-none training, gaining the necessary skills, knowledge, and experience to make an immediate contribution when entering the Airbus workforce. Programs from last 3 to 5 years give a clear route to a career at Airbus. Apprenticeships have a proven track record of elevating careers. Around 70% of UK senior managers with Airbus started their careers as apprentices. Gavin Jones, head of early careers at Airbus in the UK, said, "An apprenticeship at Airbus offers paid on-the-job training and invaluable work experience. all while still being able to further your education to either national diploma or university degree level. The value of our apprenticeship program speaks for itself, with so many going on to extremely successful careers in aerospace and aviation. Indeed, many of Airbus's current senior managers started their careers through our apprenticeship program. Applications will close early in the new year. Airbus has streamlined its recruitment process to manage the large number of applications it receives. Just a couple months ago, we did an interview with Airbus America's director for research and technology, and she was talking about capitalizing on young engineers and innovative ideas and technologies and manufacturing practices. So Airbus, continues to impress me with the way they're keeping their eye on the future, by investing in the youth. So good job.
I think when people think about jobs within the aviation or the airline industry, they kind of tend to just focus mainly on flight crew and pilots and the cabin crew and stuff like that. But there are so many other jobs within the aviation industry that need to be filled. Engineering jobs, and there are just loads and loads of different positions that need to be filled by the younger generation. And I just actually saying in the chat room that it's reading stories like this that makes me wish I was at least 20 years younger.
Yeah, and that's just in general, never mind anything to do with aviation.
Armando?
And that's so true, right? What you're saying, Carlos, is it isn't just pilots and flight attendants. There's aviation managers and operations specialists and engineers and project managers, and there's so many things that go into aviation that have such a bright future. A lot of the engineering specialties are materials engineering, not just aerospace engineering. All of this goes into the aerospace industry, and it's such a unique industry to be in that. It's great to see programs like this.
Definitely.
Actually, I just noticed, Armando, that you'd sent me a video via WhatsApp. So while you're in the chair, I'm just going to play this out. Do you want to sort of talk us through what this is, as we're talking about flying at the moment?
Yeah, going back in time. So this is Olivier's Cicada TB30, and here we are at one of the local North Carolina airports. So this is a pretty standard takeoff, mostly because you can't do crazy things anymore since everybody has a cell phone and you can't do things close to the ground, because next thing you know, it ends up on video.
Amen to that. Yeah.
But we just went right into some sort of loops, Immelmans. We did some hammerheads, aileron rolls, barrel rolls, some snap turns. It was just a great airplane to fly. Incredibly solid, I guess. The extra. I've done aerobatics in an extra, and it's pretty. Go ahead.
So where is this exactly? Where are you flying this?
So we went just north of the Charlotte area into pretty rural, almost up to the mountains, north of Hickory, North Carolina. And that's mostly because I just wanted to convince Olivier that he should move down to North Carolina because it was so pretty to fly in. Because if he moves down here, then I can fly this TB30 all the time.
Right. Nothing selfish going on there at all then, no.
Not at all, yeah.
Lovely.
But the airplane was just a dream to fly, yeah.
Actually, for those of you listening to the audio feed of this, the one thing that is very evident is that massive grin on your face from ear to ear all the way through that video.
Oh, yes.
You are literally loving every second of that. Yeah, I mean, it was.
You've really, for those of you who are listening to the audio version of the podcast, you definitely need to take yourselves over to our YouTube channel and have a look at this video.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it off now, but you can watch the
it's
other minute of it.
Looking at the scenery,
I'm going to throw up if I keep.
It's almost like he's flying here in the UK with that scenery in the background.
To be fair, if you get a nice day, it
does look like that here in the UK sometimes, yeah.
Unfortunately, the one thing you don't get in the UK, and I'm sure Nev can vouch for this, you don't really get nice days very often.
No, occasionally, but although the last summer has been reasonable, wasn't it? Actually?
Yeah, it's not too bad.
You know, Pip and I went for our flight here 2 weeks ago, and he actually commented the same. He said, "Why, it really does kind of look like the UK."
Yeah. Yeah, especially from that sort of height.
I'm looking forward to that next year. Anyway, moving on.
Yes, of course.
To the next story, and this one on the CNNtravel.com. And headline on this one is Retired Boeing 747 to become testbed for a revolutionary new engine.
Oh, this is very exciting, by the way, for no other reason than because for the first time in I don't know how long, Nev, they're talking about a 747, and look,
picture.
They've actually got a picture of a 747.
It's missing an engine, but there.
Is it the right picture?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, but
The story goes, when airplanes retire, they get transformed into everything from hotels to underwater art installations. But one Boeing 747 has a slightly less glamorous but nevertheless exciting future path. After 20 years of soaring through the skies in Qantas livery, it's been recruited by Rolls-Royce Aerospace Operations to start new life as a testbed for futuristic engines. The aircraft's final commercial flight was from Sydney to LA and is now based at Aerotech, a flight centre just outside Seattle. Here, the Boeing 747 is set to be transformed during a 2-year-long $70 million process before helping to launch the next generation of Rolls-Royce jet engines. So the aircraft flew more than 70 million kilometres over the course of its Qantas career, carrying some 2.5 million passengers. Wow. As a flying testbed, the aircraft will trial commercial and business engines at super fast speeds and high altitudes, operated by a crew of specialist test pilots. The aircraft will join forces with Rolls-Royce's existing flying testbed, which is another 747 that's completed 285 test flights and counting. A mock-up image of how the aircraft will look when it's modified depicts the Boeing 747 testing the upcoming Ultra-Fan engine, which the aviation community says will redefine the world of jet engines. The fan engine looks pretty big compared to other aircraft standard power units, and it says here that it's a really big fan, around 140 inches. Compared to, say, the XWB that's got an 118-inch diameter. Caroline Day, Head of Marketing, Strategy and Future Programs at Rolls-Royce, told CNN. On a visit to the UK's Rolls-Royce Aerospace factory in Derby, England, they told CNN Travel the company is building a number of UltraFan engines to test. The program is significant and there's hundreds of people working on the program because we want to get it ready for the back end of the next decade, she confirms. The team are determined that the new engine will be more fuel efficient and safe and smoother running. As a testbed, the former Qantas aircraft will be outfitted with instrumentation systems allowing it to take measurements of engine performance while it's in the air. This airborne laboratory will enable the development and certification of the new highly advanced engine technologies designed to increase efficiency and minimize environmental impacts, said Aerotech President and founder Lee Human. He said that our engineering, modification and test teams in Seattle and Moses Lake have already hard at work preparing to bring the Rolls-Royce version to reality. Now, it's safe to say, I mean, well, obviously, I've seen the one that they've got in play now, the flying test bed, and it does look really weird when you see these head-on, when they have the original smaller Rolls-Royce engines and then these monsters next to them. It's amazing that they can control these, so obviously with a difference in thrust from an engine that's obviously more highly powered, but...
well, I suppose it's all about the testing, isn't it?
Yes, but nice of Qantas to sell them one of the old aircraft.
Absolutely. So before we move on to the next story, Andy Williamson's been in touch again with the aircraft that we were talking about. Now, Armando, you might be slightly better at pronouncing this than me. So this was from the Red Bull race that we mentioned a photo of previously. So is it a Sergei Rachman? I can't even say it.
That's the pilot.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, Sergei Rachmanin is the pilot.
Family show.
And
oh dear, that's it. We're setting Nev off again now.
Oh, dear.
yeah.
Oh dear. Right. Oops.
Blooper reel.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's 2 in 2 weeks now.
The aircraft. Yeah, that's.
Come on,
that's
Armando.
we've lost Nev.
Please.
No, it's an MXS aircraft.
Right. Okay.
MXSR to be exact. And I think I did look up Sergei Rachmanin, and he flew a Sukhoi. He was a world champion in the Sukhoi.
He wasn't an aircraft then.
FAA.
No.
FAA.
Okay, dearie me. There and also he's attached a couple of photos as well. He's saying this is the Middle East tour a few years back. Go the Reds. Obviously, the Red Arrows back in the Middle East a few weeks back. So I'm going to try and regain some composure now.
I know, we're going to move on to the next story.
Yeah.
Matt, this next story for you is rather interesting because it's something that I don't think I would dare do.
Right, okay.
To my young
okay,
daughter.
Yeah, you'll just have to
feline,
bear with me.
Feline daughter.
Just bear with me a brief moment. Here we go. Sorry, my laptop's just crashed, so I'm just having to switch to an alternative method of reading the story while I try and
so this one is on the
right.
Manchester Evening News.
Manchester Evening News is the website or newspaper, and the headline is: couple stopped at airport security after accidentally packing pet cat in hand luggage. As you do. Candy the cat had sneakily made herself at home in the couple's suitcase without them realising. A couple heading off on holiday were stopped at airport security for accidentally packing their pet cat in their hand luggage. Nick and I want to say Veray Cole were astonished to find that Candy had managed to sneak into their suitcase while they were packing for a 40th birthday trip to New York. The pair were ushered into a side room and questions about the surprising discovery before airport staff organised for the curious cat to be picked up and taken home so that the couple could get on their flight. Nick from the Isle of Man told the Manchester Evening News that Candy is always looking for bags, boxes and tight spaces to hide in. Our hand luggage didn't have much in it, so we could bring shopping home, Nick said. But Candy, our cat, found a way in, and off to the airport we all went. Airport security were all very puzzled and repeatedly asked if the bag was ours after it had been through the scanner. After being taken into a side room, Nick said that his wife guessed that it could have been one of their 3 cats, as they had secretly decided to join them, and she was right. The couple said staff at the Isle of Man airport were awesome and laughed with them once they realised it was an honest mistake. Luckily, Candy was later picked up by friends, and Nick and his wife still managed to catch their flight to the US in time. Nick shared photos of Candy's trip to the airport on his Facebook page, which have been shared hundreds of times. Now, I can't see your cat.
She would not.
Not a hope in her.
I mean, the minute you zip the case up, she would go mental.
I mean, it's. Several things that surprised me there is that the fact that they didn't sort of really notice that the bag was wriggling, or so. I mean, surely the cat must have tried to sort of,
squeaky wheel on my suitcase, dear.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to oil those wheels. Yes, yes. Now, can you see someone like Lois Lane getting in a suitcase, Armando, to do something similar?
She probably would, but like you're saying, I don't know that she would stay quiet very long at all.
No.
I feel like I saw this movie, and now the cat's gone through the scanner, and now it's a radioactive cat, and now it's going to grow a third eye and learn to walk and talk, and it's going to be the ruler of all cats in the kingdom.
It is.
There's this week's show title: Glow in the Dark Cats.
Glow in the Dark Cats. Yes, it was Cats and Dogs, wasn't it? Where the cats took over the world. Yes, absolutely.
Can you imagine the look on the security operator's face when they're sitting they're sitting there as they do, looking miserable, and they're looking at the screen. And then a suitcase goes through with the just think image of a cat.
Something. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, Now, one of your cats, especially Nev, that you had, I mean, he was very chilled out, wasn't he? I could quite easily see him doing something like that.
Definitely. Tom would have definitely accidentally have done that.
Yeah. Oh, this looks comfy. All these clothes. Yes. This will do. Yes.
That's a long old flight, though. I mean, if they hadn't have found a cat, that's a blinking long flight.
I mean, part of me is really pleased that security were actually awake enough to.
Oh, there we go.
I think Armando's bell alarm's just gone off.
The postman's just arrived.
Yeah, we're doing the cat story, and of course he starts barking.
I see. Very excited. Yes. Never mind.
So
right on cue. Well done.
Nev, the next story has got a brilliant advert at the top, I will say. But the next story is regarding a certain airline in the UK here.
Yes, Titan is a wet lease specialist company, and this is on the flightglobal.com website, and they're bringing in its first, or their first Airbus A330, which is a -200 variant to replace a Boeing 767-300ER. The carrier had indicated earlier this year that it was looking at A330s as an alternative to its 16-year-old 767. Titan says that it will introduce the 5-year-old A330 on a 5.5-year lease. The jet is configured with 32 lie-flat seats and 206 economy seats. Identified the source of the aircraft, but the seating configuration and the interior cabin design images released by Titan match those of the A330-200s, which were delivered to Avianca Brazil, but which were withdrawn following the airline's collapse earlier this year. Whilst Titan operates 6 Airbus single-aisle jets, including an A318, 2 A320s and 3 A321s. The new addition is its first twin-aisle from the European airframe manufacturer. Titan says it is moving to an all-Airbus fleet, and the A330 will arrive in the first quarter of 2020 and will be put into service during April, says the London Stansted-based operator. It still has 2 Boeing 757-200s and a pair of 737-400 freighters. We have selected the aircraft due to the very high standard of the cabin and the crew rest compartment, which will enable us to operate the aircraft to its maximum range, says Business Director Alistair Kernan. And of course, these aircraft are used, as I said earlier, as wet leases. So they will lease the crew and the aircraft to airlines that have got aircraft out of service or shortage or that kind of thing. So you often see Titan whizzing around in out of Stansted, don't you?
Yeah, well, it wasn't Titan doing a lot of the Thomas Cook rescue
I think
flights,
they did. Yeah,
I'm sure the CAA mentioned them specifically as for being so helpful.
Well, they've got Titan have got an A318, which they've currently on lease to BA. Funnily enough, now.
Oh, okay.
They've got 3 A321s that are all being leased to Jet2 at the moment, and they've also got one of their 757s, Nev, is being leased to TUI at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Very cool.
As Nev said, they've actually got 2 of those 737-400 freighters. They must be a few years old. Because the old -400s are a few years old.
They've got a couple of years under their belt, I think it's safe to say.
So moving on to the last story, Armando, and he's busy eating his banana. Bless him. But Armando, if you want to introduce the last story, and this is we haven't had one of these for a while on the show, so I thought rather than the top 10, we'd have a top 20 this week.
Blimey, right? Okay.
Well, that's right. I didn't think you were going to cut to me because Matt always does the top 10s and top 20s.
We bequeath you with that title this week.
Well, what a great top 20 to have. This is the world's cleanest airline cabins. Unfortunately, no UK airlines.
Of course not.
So I'll give you the sorry about that. The background is the aircraft's dirtiest surfaces, which we've talked about quite a bit, are difficult to avoid. The floor is pretty gross. Even the coffee can't be trusted. But the good news is that airlines are upping the stakes when it comes to keeping their cabins in tip-top conditions. Skytrax awards for the best airline cabin cleanliness in 2019 have been announced, revealing which airlines have the cleanest cabins rated by their passengers.
If we are all ready, then let's first of all cue the music.
Ready?
And he broke it. That was a really good start, wasn't it? Okay, let's try that again. There we go.
Starting off at 20 then.
So in at number 20.
I can't hear it.
Oh, I don't mind. Just go with the flow.
Oh, number 20, Finnair.
At number 19, please, Nev.
It's Thai Airways.
Number 18, please, Carlos.
They're clean as a whistle. It's Bangkok Airways.
It's 17, please, Armando.
Cathay Dragon.
Wow, never heard of them. Number 16, please, Nev.
Number 16 is Qantas Airways.
Number 15, Carlos.
It's KLM, Royal Dutch Airline.
Armando, 14.
Friends Down Under, Air New Zealand.
It's number 13.
That's Korean Air.
And number 12.
Austrian Airlines.
Number 11.
Super generic, China Airlines.
And it's into the top 10. It's number 10.
Clean as a whistle, it's Lufthansa.
I see what you did there. Number 9.
Number 9, it's the one we all love to pronounce. It's Qatar Airways.
At number 8.
Finally, one we do know, Cathay Pacific Airways.
In at number 7.
Is Swiss International Airlines.
It's number 6.
Hainan Airlines.
Pardon?
Hainan
Very
Airlines.
good. Okay, and it's top of the. It's nearly anyway. Number 5.
Number 5, Asiana Airlines.
In at number 4.
And yes, we like them, Singapore Airlines.
In 3.
It's ANA, All Nippon Airways.
In 2.
Almost making it to the top, that's Japan Airlines.
And Bully's special prize.
Who were the cleanest, Nev? Who were the spotless airline?
The cleanest airline cabins for 2019 is awarded to Eva Air.
Very good, very good. Yes, as Armando quite rightly pointed out there, no British carriers in there, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen at least, like, say, BA.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe next year, yeah. I would have liked to have seen maybe BA or someone like that in there.
What's it, the closest we got to is Lufthansa, I suppose, would be our closest, or KLM.
Closest European carrier, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. But, I mean, genuinely, obviously, I mean, like, Nev, obviously, you've had a reasonable amount of experience on BA. I mean, are they clean most of the time?
It is difficult, and of course, a lot of airlines, I mean, they don't use their own staff to clean the aircraft.
No.
They use contract labour at the local airport. So it's, obviously, at the end of the day, it is their airline, but they use third-party contract companies for the most part. So it's not just about the airline, although at the end of the day, they're signing off the cleanliness of it or not. Yeah. But it's also about the people that they use around the world. So
indeed.
We'll see on Monday when I go to Dublin, and I shall be inspecting the carpet and the seats,
checking the seat tables and things.
And I was just going to say, actually, for those of you,
I probably wouldn't do that.
No, absolutely. Don't take a UV light with you. That's probably the key.
Oh my word, no.
Absolutely.
So in about 3 weeks' time, we have got a guest actually lined up for the show in 3 weeks' time. And this the guest we've got coming on actually spends most of his time on flying on airlines.
He does seem to, doesn't he? Yes.
Everywhere across the globe. So he'll probably give us a good what's mingy and what's not very.
What's mingy? That's what's very good. Well
nice
done, you.
in the airline
Proud
world.
Day, everyone.
So that's where we bring the commercial news segment to a close, and I hope you all enjoyed that. Hello to John Jester. Actually, John Jester's in the chat room. I've just seen there. And Owen has popped in. Hello to you, Owen. Hope you are well. He's in the chat room. So, coming up next on the show, then we've got a little bit of video. So, what's this video, Matt? Who's this?
Well, I don't know. Do we throw this to Nev, or can we do that? No, maybe not.
I can talk about it. If you wish.
If you wouldn't mind. Sorry, it just gives me less buttons to press. Basically.
Well, one of our yes. Fewer. Anyway, we are very pleased to say that our listener, Chris Griggs, sent in some video today to us. And it's all about his trip on an aircraft, which we mentioned a couple of times on the show so far, the Airbus A220. And we all like this aircraft, and we had the chance to go on it at Farnborough last time round. But this is Chris's passenger experience.
You join me at Gatwick Airport, where I await my first flight on board an Airbus A220 aircraft, no Bombardier C series. This particular aircraft, performing Air Baltic Flight 652 to Riga, is a 300 model, registration Yankee Lima Charlie Sierra Juliet, delivered to the airline in July 2018. It is one of 3 aircraft in Air Baltic's fleet sporting a special livery. These liveries show stylised versions of the flags of Latvia, Lithuania, and in this case Estonia. As the aircraft pulls on stand, you're able to get a good look at how large the Pratt & Whitney PW1524G geared turbofan engines are. And we'll have another quick look just before we step on board. Looking at a popular flight tracking website, we can see that our route took us around London, towards Essex, before turning east over the Netherlands, Germany, the Baltic Sea and into Latvia. There was a slight delay, but looking at previous flight data, that's not unusual for this particular flight. First impressions of the cabin are that it's light and airy, with large windows and a high ceiling for an aircraft of its class. The seats are wide with reasonable legroom. The tray table is, unusually, supported by a central pillar surrounded by 2 small mesh pockets. The in-flight entertainment consists of PTUK, or whatever else you bring with you, and there is a large pocket at the top of the seat containing the safety information card and a rather substantial in-flight magazine. There are small screens throughout the cabin that show a moving map, the safety demonstration and lots of adverts. Towards the end of the flight, they show gate information for connecting flights. Unless you pay to reserve a seat, you are randomly allocated one at check-in. Unfortunately, mine was the furthest you can get from the window, so you'll have to forgive the shaky camera work. But let's listen to how quiet the engines are at takeoff. The engine and aerodynamic noise remained low throughout the flight. I didn't notice any difference in the humidity or pressure of the cabin air compared to other aircraft, but I did feel more refreshed after the flight than usual, even for short haul. The large windows also let in a lot of lateral light, adding to the improved atmosphere. After nearly 3 hours, the slimline seats were beginning to feel rather hard, and it was time to bid the aircraft goodbye. On my return flight from Tallinn, I was able to chat with the captain. He started flying gliders as a young man, before becoming a commercial pilot, first flying the Soviet Yakolev Yak-40 before moving to Western types such as the Boeing 737, and spent the last year on the A220. Looking around the flight deck, the first thing you notice is the size of the flight displays, and for an aircraft not designed by Airbus, it feels very Airbus-like, with the side stick controls. Thanks for watching.
That was really good.
Yeah, of course it was. We've got awesome listeners. That's
Blimey,
right.
thank you,
Yeah,
Chris.
absolutely.
That was absolutely fantastic.
Hello.
And someone's got their volume up.
Yeah,
Somebody's got their volume.
I really the interior of that aircraft. When Al and I went on it at Farnborough, the first thing you notice, apart from the windows being fairly large, is the amount of space that you've got in the overhead bins as well. And it's a 3-in-2 configuration for the seating side of things, but they've done a really good job of it. And what I didn't realise, I don't know whether that's on every aircraft or just Air Baltic's specification, that centre pillar they've got for the tray table.
Yeah.
What a good idea that is, you know. Well, yeah, it looks really good.
I thought the IFE was brilliant as well.
So the IFE had PTUK live on it. I think all aeroplanes should have that. Yeah, absolutely. I can't see that happening anytime soon. But Chris, thank you so very much.
Yes, well done, Chris.
Taking the time to do that. And please, if that's inspired any of you to do something similar, do please feel free. If video editing isn't your thing, you just need to take the footage and we'll put it all together for you. That's fine. As I say, Chris actually did virtually all of that entirely on his own. To say all Nev had to do to that was just sort of put our bits on the front and back of it. So if you fancy having a go at creating your own passenger experience, we'd be only too delighted to receive it. You can do that by emailing the show, podcast@planetalkinguk.com, or obviously don't forget you can use the WhatsApp, which is proving to be a very popular way of getting in touch with the show, and I can't get the number to come up, otherwise I'd
actually just say a lot of love in the chat room for that particular segment. So well done, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was very
very
well done.
Yeah, absolutely. So ping us a WhatsApp, send us an email, or get in touch either on social media if you would like to send in your own passenger experience.
So we're going to move on to the next part of the show, which means I've got to hand things over to the legend that is Armando.
Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, if we're ready to wrap up the show, we always do so with the best part of the show, which is the military segment.
Here we go.
About it when the collision actually happened, but the U.S. Marine Corps has just recently released an official investigation report into the 2018 collision that claimed the lives of 6 Marines. The accident, which took place off the coast of Japan, involved an F-18 Hornet strike fighter attempting to refuel at night from a KC-130 aero refueling tanker. The report blames the collision on a lack of command oversight over operations and training, as well as an unprofessional command climate. The report rules out aircraft malfunction, stating that all aircraft were fully functional. The flight data recorder from the F-18 was recovered, as was the cockpit voice recorder and the data recorder from the KC-130J. Investigators relied on information from both, as well as numerous interviews to complete the 1,600-page report released by the U.S. Naval Institute News. So the collision did take place off the coast of Japan on the night of December 6th, 2018. 2 F-18 Hornets assigned to Marine All-Weather Fighter Attack Squadron 242, otherwise known as VMFA 242. They were practicing nighttime refueling from the KC-130. The aircraft were refueling under realistic conditions with the pilots wearing night vision goggles to see in the dark. Additionally, the Hornet fighters were flying with nav lights turned off. So according to the report, the 2 Hornets, call sign Profane 11 and Profane 12, were flying alongside the tanker, call sign Sumo 41. The 3 aircraft were flying at 15,000 feet, 1:30 in the morning local time, when the aerial refueling started. Both aircraft refueled. They were supposed to fly off the KC-130's right side, and then Profane 11, the formation leader, requested that 12 fly off the tanker's left wing, what a Marine accident investigator called a non-standard position. Sumo 41, the tanker, which was in charge of the refueling, approved the request. They did so, and again, they were flying that way. It was a non-standard procedure. Then they switched back to the right side the formation leader requested that the wingman go back off to the left side. So basically, inexperienced, night flying, and confused, the wingman eventually lost situational awareness, moved right instead of left, then abruptly corrected, and the F-18 impacted the C-130 in the vicinity of the right side rear jump door, which is kind of the position that you would be in a pre-contact position. Sorry, it's an audio podcast, and I'm doing the wing thing, the hand flying thing. The big tanker was badly damaged, last seen on fire. Was descended down from 12,000 feet. The wingman, the crew ejected, which the aircraft at that point was uncontrollable. The pilot was lost at sea, but the WISO, the weapons systems officer, was rescued by a Japanese search and rescue helicopter. And then all 5 of the C-130 crewmen were lost at sea. The remains of 3 of the 5 were later recovered. Profane 11, the flight lead, was not involved in the crash and returned to Marine Corps Air Station Iwakuni in Japan. So I guess this is kind of the wrap up, is the investigation stated that the squadron suffered from a command climate of general unprofessionalism and misconduct, including prescription drug and alcohol abuse, conduct unbecoming an officer, sexually explicit call signs, orders violations, and failures to follow fundamental principles about professional aviation training and operations. So the individuals killed in the crash were Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Herman, Major James Brophy, Staff Sergeant Maximo Flores, Corporal Daniel Baker, Captain William Ross, and Captain Jamar Rezillard. So, for a safety investigation to come back and state that the cause of the crash was an unprofessional command climate.
Wow. Yeah.
That's, well,
it's
first of all,
it's quite damning, actually, isn't it, really?
It will likely be a career-ending, finding for those in command. But, we talk about this all the time. Aviation in itself is an inherently risky thing. And it is something that, whether you're a general aviation pilot, an aerobatic pilot, a cargo pilot, a professional pilot, you have to respect the airplane. You have to respect the systems. And to do so, you have to be disciplined both in the air and on the ground. And if your conduct is risky on the ground, it is likely that your conduct will be risky in the air.
Yeah.
And the military is one of those unique organizations where you can dictate what the climate is on the ground and in your organization.
Is it one of those things that, the Army, Flying Corps, etc. Banter is a big thing, isn't it? It's all part of that. Do you think it's where this has just got a little bit too carried away, perhaps, and therefore mistakes were made? Because, in the mess hall when you're not in the air, it's a brave person that goes in there, without some kind of, backup.
Well, it's all related. And if an organizational climate is as such where it is unprofessional on the ground, yeah, sure, banter and rivalry and all those things are, a thing that you would find in the military as well as any sports team or, any team really. But really it's up to the leadership to keep in mind what the end goal there, It sounds callous, but I always reminded the folks that I worked with that while we will become friends, we are not there to be friends. We are there to accomplish the mission. Yeah. And to do so safely for both ourselves and our customers, which are, those people that we were supporting on the ground. And it's not just endemic to the military, because there are plenty of pilot stories where pilots have left, pick an outfit, a cargo outfit, because they're deferring maintenance items, or there's a management climate that is unprofessional. So it's not just a military thing. It can happen in any organization, aviation or not, where the success of the organization relies upon the professionalism of its members.
Yeah, actually, Tony in the chat room has just said, interestingly, that the crash report for last year's Red Arrow's fatal crash was released this week, and it doesn't make good reading, he was saying.
I mean, this story,
like pilot error there.
Air-to-air refueling is fairly,
it's fairly routine. I suppose,
there is a huge art to doing air-to-air refueling. In the daytime, when it's daylight, and you can see everything that's going on. But at night time, you just add a whole different level of expertise to air-to-air refueling.
Absolutely. But then it's just it's any specialist job, isn't it? I mean, it's.
Yeah, specifically with air-to-air refueling, there's a procedure, and you stick to that procedure. And at night under NVGs is not the time to get hot doggy and try to come up with something new. A new thing just because you're complacent in the way it's always been done. So I'm gonna take the initiative to do something different. Well, why? What's the reasoning behind that? There's no reason to. In-flight refueling is already a scary thing.
Which is exactly what Mike has just said in the chat room. Air-to-air refueling is never routine, he says.
Yeah. It was one of those things that always amazed me when I was flying, and you're sitting there in the cockpit of one airplane and you're looking at another airplane, and man, it is incredibly close. And I don't know that once I ever thought, well, this would be the time to try something new.
No,
indeed. Anyway, move on to the next story, please, Carlos.
The next story is on combataircraft.keypublishing.com, and I love this aircraft. If I could have my own kind of trainer, fighter jet kind of trainer, I'd have one of these in the back garden. But anyway,
right, okay.
This
you've got to get that through the wife first, of course. Don't forget.
Yeah, there's a joint account for that. So this this headline is: report says Boeing Saab TX trainer would make an ideal light fighter. A new study for the US Air Force says the key to expanding its fleet of fighter aircraft could lay in developing the new Boeing Saab TX trainer as a low-cost, lightweight fighter. The study is one of two reports by the MITRE Corporation in answer to Congress's directive for an independent analysis of the US Air Force's aim to increase in size in order to meet the demands of the National Defense Strategy. The corporation's senior principal systems engineer, David Gerber, says the less demanding missions such as Homeland Defense should not soak up precious hours for advanced fourth and fifth generation fighters, saying that this kind of role could easily be assumed by a development variant of the TX. The Air Force We Need initiative suggests increasing the US Air Force fighter squadrons from 55 today to 62 by the mid-2020s. In budget-constrained times, the TX could offer dramatically lower upfront acquisition and through life support costs. Speaking at June's Paris Air Show, Boeing's Tom Breckenridge, Vice President of the International Sales, told reporters that the company expects a global market for some 2,600 advanced jet trainers in the era of its TX. It knows it's tapping into huge potential, but it needs to be realised if the company is to make serious money with the TX. TX is broadly aimed at 351 new aircraft and associated training systems under a planned budget that was as much as $19 billion. Boeing's winning bid was worth $9.2 billion. The initial number of aircraft is purely for undergraduate pilot training within the Air Education and Training Command, AETC. But there are several avenues that could offer additional businesses from the US Air Force. Boeing is already looking at flight attack, air, and aggressor training opportunities for the aircraft and says it has already identified locations for hard points under the wings. Coupling low cost and high performance makes the Boeing aircraft an exciting overall prospect for the US Air Force. Maintaining a fleet of fifth-generation fighters is going to impact overall mass due to high cost of operating these advanced fighters, while multi-role capability ensures that high-end fighter aircraft are ambiguous and versatile. Clearly, some more niche roles can be justified for other platforms, especially if it helps preserve fifth-generation fighter fleets, although clever low-high force mix by removing the need to fly more benign missions in permissive environments. This is something a TX aircraft modified with a small electronically scanned array, radar and short-range air missile could theoretically prove extremely effective at. And there is actually, for those of you listening or watching the show, Matt will put the links in the show notes, but there is a video from Boeing that goes along with the story which Boeing have put together of the aircraft itself on its test flights, EMD test flights. But I just think in the picture that is at the top of the story on here, in that paint job, looks awesome. These do look very, I don't know, it's kind of F-16-ish, F-18-ish. I don't know, they're kind of like a mini version of a fighter jet, I'd like to say.
Yeah.
But I expect they'll probably see me out of a bank account, I think.
Yes, or a divorce, or both.
Or both, yeah.
Indeed. Nev, on to the next story, please.
Yeah, this is on the airforcemag.com website. And it says that the UK's RAF is emulating the US Air Force's Rapid Capabilities Office, creating its own RCO to swiftly field new aircraft gear, and will pursue a version of the US Air Force's new Century Series initiative in developing its own next-generation combat aircraft, the Tempest. Even with these steps, however, the RAF commander said he sees no changes for Britain's involvement with the F-35 programme. Air Chief Marshal Michael Wigston, head of the RAF, told AFA's Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies on October the 11th that the RCO idea was born on this side of the Atlantic, but when we saw the model and what it was capable of, there was no question that we needed to bring it in. He credited the RAF's RCO with some remarkable successes in providing some dispensables and in reducing the risk in the Tempest, also known as the Future Combat Air System. The Tempest is a stealthy combat aircraft with a front end that resembles that of the F-35. The challenge for both organisations, he said, is in scaling up what they produce to be applicable to the entire force. Britain's RCO has proved its worth in terms of introducing the next generation of expendable decoys, lightweight swarming drones, and other capabilities, he said. Scaling up successful demonstrations is something we're wrestling with at the moment. The secret, Wigston said, is to get the right team around the table from day one with the right mindset and the authority to knock down barriers and not take no for an answer. The RAF has already launched 80 programs and let 160 contracts on Tempest-enabling technologies across the range of capabilities you would imagine going into a future combat air system, Wigston said. It's not yet been decided whether the jet will be manned, although there may be a manned aircraft at the centre with local wingmen and the like around it. Tempest sets the pace for US Air Force's Digital Century Series initiative. And this is where the competition is really a good thing, he said. The ambitions for USF's next generation air dominance, NGAD system and Tempest match, Wigston asserted, but I think it will bring out the best in both of our aerospace sectors and the way our government contracts with the aerospace sector. The prize itself is not just in achieving new combat capabilities, but finding a whole new way of working with our industrial sector where we get the platform we need faster and frankly cheaper, he said. Companies will be incentivized to produce quickly and effectively, but the government is not being over prescriptive in defining the capability that we need. France, Germany and Spain are also exploring a similar concept with the new generation fighter. This is going to be a really exciting decade ahead as we learn from the experience of introducing fifth generation platforms, he said. Wigston also said that he thinks a 5-year aircraft development cycle, such as that proposed by Air Force Acquisition Chief Will Roper, is achievable. The Tempest will likely start filling in behind early tranches of retiring Typhoon fighters starting in the 2030s and completely replace the type in the 2040s, he said. He also said that BAE's partnership with Saab of Sweden is critical in the development of Tempest. He admires the speed and culture with which Saab modernized and spirally improved the Jazz 39 Gripen C to the E model. I look at that and I say that's exactly what I want, he says. Wigston said that July saw the first international fifth generation training where US B-2 bombers and British F-35s practiced operating together. He said that an increased pace of both training for joint fifth generation operations, such as this summer's point blank exercises, and practicing putting F-35s down in places like Italy, another F-35 partner, and having them serviced, rearmed and launched again. British F-35s will practice alongside Marine Corps F-35s when the new British carrier, the Queen Elizabeth II, conducts sea trials off the US East Coast very soon, he noted. Whilst it's definitely a discussion for the future of whether Britain needs F-35As as well as F-35Bs, the conventional takeoff and short takeoff vertical landing variants, respectively, the UK is committed to buy at least 138 F-35s, at least for the next few block buys and confirmed orders, Wigston said. Britain understands that the reasoning behind the US's decision to oust Turkey from the F-35 program, and I would absolutely recognise that we have to be constantly on our guard for migration of any of their technologies for F-35s to Russia or any other potential adversary. Turkey is being ejected from the F-35 consortium over its adamance in the Russian S-400 air defense system, which could compromise secrets about the F-35 stealth properties. I'm very confident that the program will continue and adjust for the absence of Turkey, Wigston asserted. Clearly, we'd all prefer to see Turkey as remaining part of the program, but there's no debate about the decision. It's just regrettable that we are where we are. So that was quite a long article, but gives you some insights into how these things are developing and also how international business is conducted, and if people see that a certain country is a bit too close to another country, that they can be actually taken out of the program.
Out of the program, yeah, absolutely.
Just looking up the Tempest while you're reading it, actually, Nevis, it looks really good. They had a mock-up at early this year at one of the air shows, I think, in Europe. But we're not actually. It says it's not going to be introduced into service until 2035. So it's quite a way off.
Quite a way away, as you say. It's actually while we've been talking, while Nev's been reading that story, actually the chat room has been having an interesting discussion about refueling. Actually, going back to our first story there, I wonder, Armando, if you might be able to sort of summarise that a bit, actually, because they've. I think one of the questions was the Osprey, wasn't it? Like whether it was possible to sort of refuel that in the air.
Yeah, different. So there's two predominant systems to refueling aircraft. One is with a boom, and a boom has a little flying wing and it has an operator. Unless you're the KC-46, which is all supposed to be more automated, but it's basically a boom, maybe 20 or so feet that extends down from the bottom of the aircraft, has a little flying wing, and then it extends further from there. Where it essentially inserts into a receptacle into the receiving aircraft. The other way to do it is probably the more commonly seen when you talk about aerial refueling, which is a hose that extends out from the aircraft, and it has a drogue chute. It looks like a little parachute on the end of it, and the receiving aircraft has a probe, and you got to fly the probe into the chute or into the drogue. So there's pros and cons to each system. Basically, there's variations in simplicity and who needs to be better between, do you need a good boom operator or do you need a good pilot? So in general,
I mean, I would argue perhaps you need both.
Yeah, right. That's the ultimate goal, is to have good of all of them. But there are some advantages in that, one system is easier to maintain. So if you just have a hose that extends out from the aircraft, I can fly a fairly low speed airplane into it, and it's difficult to catch. If you just go to YouTube and look at any video of an aerial refueling with a drogue chute, it's bouncing up there depending on the airplane. Sometimes it's bouncing in the wake turbulence. Sometimes you get, so it's difficult to fly into it, catch it, and then stay locked onto it as the refueling aircraft is making its turns or changing altitude or something like that. And
Tony has a great point here. He's saying, well, there's pros and cons to each system, hence the reason we still use both.
Yeah, that's right. And some aircraft are outfitted with both. So there's a very small number of KC-135s that have both drogues and the boom. I'm sure there's other aircraft. I know some of the British aircraft are outfitted with both the boom and the drogue. And that has been a lesson learned in the last sort of 15 years of combat, is as we all continue to work together more closely, we need to be able to refuel from a British tanker, or a British fighter needs to be able to refuel from a U.S. tanker. So the systems have become more interoperable. At the end of the day, they're all developed by Boeing or Airbus.
More standardized in effect, so that these things can.
They kind of need a one size fits all kind of thing, don't they?
I suppose so. But then again, I suppose it's like, and going back to the world of that me and Nev live in. I mean, it's the standardization of the micro USB or the USB-C. Do you know what I mean? It's like you almost need that sort of. If you are, as you say, if people are going to be working together, they almost need to come up with one type, and that's what everybody uses. But then I don't know. Anyway, I mentioned it only because it was actually quite a fascinating chat to read. And we need to move on, actually, because we're rapidly running out of time. We've only got 9 minutes. We've only got 9 minutes before the
the next story. Love this story, Matt, for you. And when you've done this, there's some awesome pictures.
I'm going to pop some pictures up. So this is on the Mail online, and we actually the Queen Elizabeth was mentioned in the last story, but it says the British supersonic stealth jets have taken off and landed on HMS Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier for the first time as part of an advanced trial with the US military. The F-35 Lightning jets, the world's most advanced, will undergo rigorous mission planning and flying exercises off the east coast of North America, the Ministry of Defence said. The MOD released images of the multi-role advanced aircraft hovering above and landing on the 65,000-ton carrier for the first time on Sunday. It shows successful trials last year with US military Lightning jets. The F-35B Lightning jet is the first to combine radar-evading stealth technology with supersonic speeds and short takeoff and vertical landing capability. The fighter planes will be jointly manned by the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy and can operate from land and sea. This follows successful developmental trials last year with the US Lightning, where forces conducted 500 takeoff and landings over their 11-week period at sea. These trials include end-to-end testing of the aircraft and their personnel to ensure that they work with the next generation carrier. The tests involve mission planning, arming the aircraft using the ship's highly automated weapon handling system, flying missions and debriefing on completion. Defence Secretary Ben Wallace said that the Lightning aircraft operates with a cutting-edge design. It is the first jet to combine radar-evading stealth technology with supersonic speed, as well as the ability to fly and land vertically. And now, as I say, Carlos mentioned these pictures. They are absolutely stunning.
It's so good. Can I just say, finally, we've got aircraft on our aircraft carriers.
I know, it's slightly fun. They're not our aircraft.
Well, no.
But nevertheless, they are at least aircraft. I mean, that'd be too much to hope for, I suppose. But it's
nice to see these some lovely pictures here, actually.
Yeah,
and it's great to see these aircraft, on the flight deck here. Seeing the F-35 on our new carrier.
Yeah.
does kind of.
So Armando, what have you got to say about this? Really, I mean, obviously this is sort of exciting news for all allies, I guess. Really.
Yeah, this is huge. This is a huge milestone for the UK, for both the F-35s as well as the Queen Elizabeth. So I know when I was over there in the UK, we had one of your high-level government officials come to our organization and look at the CV-22s to at least get something on the aircraft carrier.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, this is huge.
Absolutely, it's great. It's great to sort of, as Carlos says, it's great. But for a country that is essentially an island, it's great to finally have one of these back in service. It has to be said.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Right.
So that is where we bring the military news segment to a close. Just a quick mention before we start to wrap things up, that most of you will notice that I got rather excited on social media yesterday because they have announced finally that after 3 years of being missed, the Malta Air Show will be back next year in September, on the 26th and 27th of September next year. So great to see that back. Great to see it back in play. That is a really good air show, and I'm looking forward to going out next year.
You're so excited about this air show that I almost feel like I need to go very BBC about this and say, of course, please don't forget other air shows are available.
Yes. So fingers crossed. Hopefully, all being well, it would be nice if we could all be out there next year for the air show.
Well, yeah, we'll have a chat about that off air, shall we?
We'll get a Ryanair flight for Nev.
Oh, good, right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, he's got a funny colour. That's it. He's gone.
Actually, just quickly, can I just point out that when I done a quick check on the flight prices of flights to Malta next year for the air show, can I just say that BA flights came out nearly £100 cheaper than Ryanair.
They? Oh, there we are.
Just saying.
Shock horror.
There we go.
Absolutely.
So that is where we wrap up episode number 291. Big thanks to everyone who's joined us on the YouTube chat room tonight. Thanks for tuning in on your Friday evening, and not forgetting as well everyone who downloads the show as an audio podcast.
Quick walk round. Nev, what are you up to next week?
Yes, a busy week coming up. Off to Dublin, Cork, Shannon in the Republic of Ireland, and then off up to Belfast for the end of the week. So I'll be back on Friday of next week, so I should be here. Yeah, I've got 4 days in Ireland, which I'm really looking forward to.
Fantastic. Armando, I assume there's a little flying in your calendar?
Yeah, I've got, in the next 7 days, I've got 4 days of flying between skydivers and search and rescue and some Army contract missions. So, yeah, it'll be quite a bit. I'll be on the show next week, but then after that, it's off to Colorado for some multi-engine flying.
Wow, very exciting. Now, Carlos, obviously you spent most of last week zipping up and down
London.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your favourite place?
Yeah, where are you off to this week?
Oh, nowhere that glamorous this week. I'll be mostly based in and around RAF Horham, where our site is based.
Okay, right,
so,
fair enough. Yeah, and it's half term here in the UK, so not so much driving for me. I've got a little day trip out to Colchester with one of my favourite groups, but other than that, I'm not leaving East Anglia much at all.
You'll have to come work for me.
Right, okay. No thanks.
There we go. So that's it then, guys and girls. Yeah. Don't forget to tune in next Friday for the show, and have a great weekend wherever you're doing and whatever you are. But stay safe, fly safe, and enjoy yourselves and take care. So from me, Carlos here, and Matt in the PTUK studios, Armando in his studio, and Nev in his luxury studio.
Luxury studio, yes.
It's goodbye from us all.
Everybody say goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.